The Bliss Podcast. Hare Krishna.
Hare Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari
Kacharya, Asturasatu Shri Shimad, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivraj Kacharya, Asturasatu Shri Shimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada ki Jai, Anand Kuri Vaishnava ki Jai, Namacharya Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Prem se kuhu Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavan ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Sham Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Gaura ki Jai. Sri Vrindavan Dham ki Jai, Mathura Dham ki Jai, Navadi Dham ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham ki Jai, Gangamai ki Jai, Yamunamai ki Jai, Gurdev ki Jai, Bhakti Dev ki Jai, Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi, Hari 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 Bol, oh glories to the Shambho devotees, Hare Krishna. Oh glories to the Shambho devotees, Hare Krishna. Oh glories to the Shambho devotees, Hare Krishna. Oh glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Oh glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, dear friends and listeners of the Bliss podcast. I'm here with His Grace Maitreya Rishi Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
I don't know if His Grace is the correct terminology, but Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And what we're going to talk about today, Prabhu?
The world's gonna end. It's all going to chaos. Run for the hills. Yeah. Well, there's a possibility of a global economic collapse. So seems like kind of a hot topic to talk about before the electricity inevitably runs out and we can't stream Bliss podcast anymore because the whole world has gone to hell.
Hare Krishna.
And what to do afterwards also, because obviously you need a little bit of a positive solution. So do the Bliss have anything? Do they have any solution for for this potential catastrophe? And we're going to be quoting Srila Prabhupada. What Srila Prabhupada, the founder of the Hare Krishna movement, great spiritual master from the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, has to say in terms of what is the actual nature of a virus in this material world, and predictions for the his predictions for this particular period in history, period in time, and what to do after a potential economic collapse or new beginning to the world. I don't know. Maybe I'm on point. Maybe you had a different plan than I was envisioning, but I think I covered everything.
Well, yeah, of course, there's lots of information out there on the internet. That's where we're getting all kinds of information, and it's really like a crisis because here we're locked. People are in the streets. Something is really going on. Something that will change our life for good, I would say. And I mean, we've been following this with our podcast since Spain, since we were still in Spain. That's what broke out. And we're slowly awakening to reality. What is actually going on? It's difficult to predict, and at the same time, it is not difficult to predict.
What do you mean by at the same time it's not difficult to predict?
Because Krishna says this world is dukhalayam ashashvatam. It is full of misery. And because the world is run by demons, as Srila Prabhupada says, this world is run by rakshasas, by demons, then you can't expect anything good from that. Billions of slaughterhouses killing innocent animals, killing the babies in the womb. This is all such a burden for the earth that then the earth is defending herself by sending pandemics and so on and so on. So anyway, another pandemic is, I think, more serious pandemic is this confusion of information, this battle of so many people who are actually explaining what is going on. And to be honest, I am completely confused. I don't know who to believe, whom to believe, who is speaking the truth. Prabhupada taught us that imperfect conditioned souls, they have imperfect ideas that are always flawed. And if you trust them, if you believe in them, your life will also be flawed. So we start with Srila Prabhupada, what he says. Okay, first of all, there's this theory from my limited research that is going on, that the virus actually doesn't exist. And, they were not able to isolate the virus, and the virus doesn't cause disease. I think Bhakta Robin, who's our stalwart listener, and thank you, Robin, for your nice donation of 10 euros, or 10 pounds, sorry. Thank you so much. He sent me one time this link where they're explaining that the virus actually doesn't exist according to Ayurveda. So, I'm just throwing it out there. I don't have any position. I'm a fool, number one. I just know where are my beats. Sometimes even that I'm so smashed I can't find my beats. But, so far I have my beats, then okay. That's the extent of my knowledge. But I think it's important to discuss these things because, the world is changing, and we should make the proper adjustment. Of course, you can't make an adjustment, really. Your karma, whatever your karma is, you have to suffer your karma. But still, it's our duty to protect the body as much as possible so we can use it for nice devotional service to Krishna. This human form is very precious, so we should not lose it whimsically. So anyway, Prabhupada, I found a few conversations here on this topic. Here Prabhupada says, he's talking to Swarup Damodar. He was one of his disciples, scientist disciples. So Swarup Damodar says, actually, if these two things, that life comes from life and this concept of the universe, 2 points are clear, then everything is taken care of. Prabhupada, very good. They're false propaganda. Scientists, they should seriously charge for the prestige of their Vedic knowledge. Yes, sir. You are stating, what is this nonsense? You are creating some rascals? Yes, my lord, in the name of education. So Prabhupada is basically saying that you should charge the scientists for the prestige of Vedic knowledge. The Vedic knowledge will shine when you challenge the scientists. Swarup Damodar, I made an advertisement in MIT saying that Quran is the man who synthesized this gene. They thought it might be life. So I was putting in an MIT newspaper in the campus saying that Quran's gene is not life and virus is not life. These are all molecules. They have nothing to do with life. So we have a lecture coming up next month, July the 10th, in the MIT campus. So 3 of us are going to speak on life coming from life. Because this is an MIT campus, so there will be many people from his group coming because it is directly challenging the biggest group in the United States about this. Prabhupada. So they accept? Swarup Damodar, yes. And some Indians are on our side, especially this Indian Student Association. And also there's an association called Indian Association for Greater Boston. Of all these associations, the president and the secretary came to me and they're supporting us. Prabhupada, that's nice. Swarup Damodar. So they're organizing these lectures. So we have a show on July the 10th. Prabhupada, make a great agitation. It will be done if you work. A great challenge of the Bhaktivedanta Institute for the whole world. Is it not? Swarup Damodar. Oh yes. Prabhupada, Nate Vidu, these rascals, they do not know. That is going on. Nate Vidu Svatgadarim, Hi Vishnum Durasya Iba Tamanina, Yantada Antadira Upaniyamanas, Tepi Shatantriam Urudam Nibanda. Persons who are strongly entrapped by the consciousness of enjoying material life and who have therefore accepted as their leader or guru a similar blind man attached to external sense objects cannot understand that the goal of life is to return home back to Godhead and engage in the service of Lord Vishnu. As blind men guided by another blind man miss the right path and fall into a ditch, materially attached men led by another materially attached man are bound by the ropes of fruitive labor, which are made of very strong cords, and they continue again and again in materialistic life, suffering the threefold miseries. So that's a conversation Srila Prabhupada had with Swami Damodar on the June the 21st, 1977 in Vrindavan. Vrindavan is the birthplace of Krishna. Here, this is a disciple, not Srila Prabhupada directly, but a disciple of Prabhupada, Swarup Damodar, who was a scientist and who became a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and he was preaching through the scientific terminology, Krishna consciousness, very nicely. Prabhupada very much liked this program. So he said the virus is not life. The virus cannot spread. It's like, yeah, well, I'm not an expert on, but there's a theory like this, that the virus actually cannot contaminate you, that when people get sick is the exosomes. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it rightly, but yeah, these are basically dead cells that they get released from your body and they create the disease. It's the way how the body is purifying itself from, toxins. That's how you have cough and all these things. The body has immune system, and that just gets rid of the dead cells in this way. It is not that the virus is causing the disease. Well, you can look it up. I'm just giving you a hint. And Srila Prabhupada, Swarup Damodar here says also that virus is not life, which we know very well that chemicals or molecules cannot create life, or not life. It's the soul. The soul puts on the dress of the material body, and then it acts and so on and so on. So it doesn't make really sense that the virus would create such a pandemic, because there's no. And another thing is that they've never isolated the virus, and they've not proven causality, meaning that the virus is not proven that the virus is causing death. So many of these cases, you see that they have some problem, some old people, they have some other disease, chronic lung, breathing problems, and they die, and they put on the certificate it was COVID. But that might not have been necessary because they have not proven the causality. This is what I heard anyway. You can tell me in the comments, Prabhu's friends. Let us know in the comments what you think about this. But I just found this conversation that kind of relates to this.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking about a couple things, but of course I don't really know too much about the coroner, as does anyone really, it seems. But I would say that if you look at a lot of other diseases, or how do you say, derelictions of the body, for example, cancer. scientists have a lot of information actually about what cancer is. They have the, of course, I mean, you can take it or leave it. I mean, how accurate this information is, or how much of it is speculation or whatever. But they have the names, the scientific names. They analyzed it under a microscope. They've got this interaction detailed. They've got this thing which curbs the influence, this food which agitates it. They have so much research and detail on pretty much all of these diseases, but I've not personally seen a lot of stuff about corona. And maybe I'm just ignorant. I'm sure. Like, what, there was this one interviewer who was interviewing Prabhupada and said, maybe I'm just swimming in ignorance. So maybe I'm just swimming in ignorance here. But as far as I've seen, there's not really like they, like you've also mentioned on the last podcast, they haven't isolated the disease. So it's not really clear if it exists, because we don't. I mean, of course, like, I can't see it, so it doesn't exist, is one of the arguments we criticize. But it doesn't seem like they actually know what corona is and anything about it at all. And yet, it's been the biggest disturbance to the whole world. And I think this is something that we've been discussing here at the center in London, is that it's really the situation that the corona hype, I would say the corona hype, I wouldn't even say the coronavirus, because coronavirus implies like a solidified thing, that we understand. There's the corona hype is just an anxiety that people have. You can't actually put your finger on it, and it's creating so much disturbance. The whole world's economy seems to be going down the toilet because people are becoming unemployed, businesses are shutting down as a result of people not being allowed on the streets, these big lockdowns, these social distancing. Such a disturbance to the main avenues, or avenues of revenue. I don't know if that's a actual phrase, but for example, restaurants. Restaurants are so limited now. Because it's like a hub of spreading the disease. If you think that it's a disease, and it's very easily contagious, like they say, and people will buy into this. So restaurants, if you go here in London, and London is one of the busiest cities in the world. I mean, millions and millions of people not only live here but come through the city all the time, tourists and all this. And so it's extremely busy, and these restaurants are usually packed to the brim with lines outside. And now you walk down the streets and you can see, if they're not completely closed down, they're practically empty. And they're open. I mean, this was before the lockdown I'm talking about, of course. But there's no one there. And this is a lot of the business, a lot of the employment for people, and a lot of the also the taxes that people pay come from these businesses. Right, they're supplying, they're holding up the economy, and you can see on the street they're practically shut down, along with so many other businesses aside from the restaurants. So for something which is practically speaking just a theory at this point, and you really can't identify what it is, you're basically putting the whole world into a ditch, and it seems like a great foolishness. Besides the sorry, not besides, but and the obvious fact is that, and I mentioned this the last podcast, that even if you cure this disease, if you find what this disease is and you cure it, another disease will come, and what will you do then? There won't even be at this rate, there won't even be like an organized society to put down these lockdown measures, because we're putting so much extreme countermeasures for this almost non-existent thing. And it just seems very dire. So I don't have so much knowledge, but I would say, from what I understand, it's like a very drastic and troubling situation that's being created by something that can't be proved.
Okay, I found something here about the exosomes. This is from a website, georgetownmarket.com. Just a random website I see here. Foolish. But it's something that I heard that it was very similar. It says, what if viruses didn't exist as we believe them to be? Try wrapping your head around exosomes, which is something you may not be familiar with. I certainly had not heard of exosomes before the appearance of the reported novel coronavirus. According to scientists, exosomes and viruses are indistinguishable. Indistinguishable. Neither are living organisms. They act similarly. So, see, neither are living organisms, just like Prabhupada says. They act similarly. But what are exosomes? The best way to describe or compare viruses and exosomes is to watch this video. Oh, that I cannot show you. It is 9 minutes long and does a very good job of comparing exosome and virus. The video also briefly describes the most common testing method for the novel coronavirus, the Pcr test. This involves using a nasal swab to supposedly detect the novel coronavirus in your nasal sinus cavity. In the video, it states that Kari Mullis, the inventor of the PCR test in 1983, claims that the PCR test is not to be used as a diagnostic test. The obvious question begging to be asked is, why is it the gold standard of testing and who made this decision? Add all these four positive produced by the PCR test and it should be clear that this is a meaningless test, yet the data is being used to create fear and make life-changing decisions. And so on, so on. So this is one of the theories.
Well, yeah, I guess that last point especially just builds on what I just said. That's again another, they put so much weight on this test. We also had the experience here. There was some possible anxiety around the housemates that we might have the coronavirus. So we were asked to do a test, and so we got one of these so-called rare tests, and they make it like a big deal, that this is very valuable. We don't have so many of these; they got to go out. But actually, it comes in this nice package. There's a huge hype around it. Again, I know the word hype, and but actually, it can't determine whether someone has the disease or not. Like, are you also telling me today that they have some statistic that what was that? 40% of the people who have the disease, they tested positive, but they don't have the symptoms. No symptoms. No symptoms whatsoever. They test positive, but they don't have coronavirus. So 40%. Wow, amazing. That's like such a disproportionate statistic. And like they just said in this article, life-changing decisions and fear. They're instilling fear in people. And, I just went out now to Tesco to go and get some boga for Krishna, to offer Krishna. And like the whole atmosphere of everyone is they won't go near you, like I was wearing my jacket over my mouth because I'd forgot my mask. And so because you're not wearing this mask, just because you're not wearing the mask, right, they put this idea that the mask will protect you from coronavirus. It can't be a jacket which is even thicker than a mask. It has to be the mask. So because you don't have this image of the mask on your face, then the people are like avoiding you, they're like scared. They won't even come in the Tesco. I just had this experience. So people.
Just one note. It just shows you how people are foolish. They think, oh, we are not fanatics. We're very you Hare Krishnas, you're very fanatics. You just follow what your guru says and what Krishna says. You don't question reality. But so many of them have been convinced to the point that they're gonna like attack you if you don't have the mask.
Right.
And then mask is
It's a thin piece of paper.
yeah, they even say that it's dangerous. Actually, other scientists. Now, who's telling the truth?
Right.
See, I'm not saying I am ignorant. I'm always saying I am ignorant. I don't know what is going on, but just see the foolishness. How can you trust anyone if these are also scientists? It's not some Joe Bag of Donuts with his internet access, right? As a scientist with degrees and careers, and they say actually the masks are they're dangerous for the health of the people. Also lockdowns. I saw 6,000 doctors from U.S. wrote a letter to Trump about these lockdowns, how harmful it is that they protest the doctors. You see, so as this article here on the website said, who made that decision? Who made the decision it's going to be like this? What is that science? See, science is just voting. Someone is speculating and then voting. They have no clear idea, and then the whole world has to suffer. So,
Yeah, I think that's like the crux of the issue. Not the crux of this particular issue, but it addresses like a bigger point that people rely on science, but it's now being proved more than ever. It's a totally, completely unreliable religion and faith system, and yeah, you're getting all your sources of information from different imperfect authorities. It's always conflicting, it's always changing, it's always being proved wrong, and yet still people subscribe to it. And not just people, but the whole society.
the government says this, we accept this. This is science, and then the government, they have guns, right? They have army and everything. So it's not a joke. If people, people can accept anything, but when the government says this is how it is, then everyone suffers.
Would you say that there's like a global? Because I've also heard the conspiracy that there might be like a global world order, some kind of sinister control freaks in the higher up positions of the governments or whatever it might be, who are trying to control people through this disease, this propaganda, and these lockdowns. What would you say to this?
Well, it's democracy, so people are voting. The people, these governments, they're weak, so it's possible they're controlled, by the corporations, and then you can go hire the bankers and whatever. I don't think the government is very strong. Actually, the government is not running anything. They just puppets. They just follow whoever pays them, and there's so much money there. So I don't think the government would be the responsible people. These responsible, those who are controlling it, we can't even see. That you don't know even.
Yeah, it's not really clear who's in control at all. It's just kind of these bodies of the government that make some decisions, but there's not like a person you can really pin it on.
I have a more nectar here from Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada is explaining how how the doctors misdiagnosed his servant, and they wanted to operate on him, but then they realized. I'm going to read you this. It's very funny. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Western civilization will collapse very soon. That we're going to read later. Okay, here it is. Adi Keshava, it's a disciple of Prabhupada. Sometimes they make the operations and they leave the knife in and they sew the knife up inside after they make an operation. Or the scissors. They take some clamps and they sew them inside the wound. And then the man says, oh, I have a pain in my side. They say, oh, new disease. And they make another operation and take out the clamps or the knife.
I can read maybe to make it clarified also. Sometimes they only depend on machines. This is Sarup Damodara. These medical doctors, they sometimes depend only on machines. That's why he's mentioning about X-ray. Though through these machines, you cannot tell the correct diagnosis.
Prabhupada, I have got my experiences in my family life. One servant, Kashiram, yes, his name was Kashiram, so he was howling. So we took him to the hospital and so many student doctors surrounded. They diagnosed something, strangulation or something like that. Yes, they were prepared to surgical operation. Then another experienced doctor came, he said, let us wait a day. So he was kept in the hospital and we came back. That Kashiram, another friend, servant of the neighborhood, So he said, Babaji, he has drunk a little. So I said, don't, there are so many doctors. And next morning he came back and said, the doctor said, you're all right, you can go.
I had a similar story. It's my own personal experience. In 1974, I came here in India. I got malaria in the United States in summer 1975. Then the temperature was very high. I went to the Baptist hospital in Atlanta. They thought it was a viral infection. They couldn't diagnose. Then they gave some medicine, and then I went. But it started again the following day. Then I went to another doctor. He could not diagnose. So they gave me glucose injection, a big bottle, thinking that there was a strange viral infection. So about 6, 7 doctors, they couldn't diagnose for 3 to 4 days. Then one day there was a doctor who came from Vietnam, had some experience in tropical disease, so he thought it might be malarial fever. Then after that I was surrounded by many doctors thinking that this was a strange disease before. It was a strange disease, but they diagnosed. But it was not right. They did all the wrong medicine, thinking it was a viral infection. Prabhupada says yes.
Yeah, so, it just, all we are trying to say is that don't believe the doctors and the scientists 100%. Certainly, they have, done lots of research and lots of good science and proven many things and developed many medicines, and we don't deny that. But to believe the scientists 100% to the extent that you stop questioning, this is dangerous. See, so here's more. Prabhupada speaks of the perfection of virology. Biological evolution is taking place on account of the soul's desire. It takes place because of infection. If a man has smallpox virus, then he is subjected to smallpox. It is not that everyone is infected and everyone is attacked with smallpox disease. Only the person who is infected, he is attacked. In this connection, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Purusha prakatisto hi bhunkte prakati jan gunan karanam guna sango sya sat asat yonish janmasu. Purusha means the living entity or the soul. He is subjected to be infected by the modes of material nature. There are 3 modes of material nature, sattva gun, rajagun, tamagun, and when they are fixed up, they become 3 times 3 equals 9, and 9 times 9 equals 81, and each quality, there are millions of forms. Therefore, the total number of forms is 8,400,000. So the diseases are there, and the forms of disease are also there. Material form means diseased form. Therefore, one is to change this form, death, and he carries with him the infection, and he develops another disease. In this way, the soul, although part and parcel of God in diseased condition, they are forced to change body. That is transmigration of the soul from one body to another. To be more clear, the disease is there, just as the smallpox disease is there. One is to become diseased, being infected. Similarly, the forms of the body are there. One is to infect the form and it develops. Karanam guna sangosya sad asad yoni janmasu. Because he is infecting different diseased forms, therefore he is developing different forms of body. There is no such case of smallpox changing into malaria. Smallpox is smallpox and malaria is malaria. By the desire of the living entity, he becomes infected with a certain disease or body. Krishna consciousness is the vaccine for all the diseases, different forms of material bodies. Krishna says, Mam choyo vibhyacharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samati tyaitam brahmabhuyana kalpate. Brahmabhuya is the immune stage or Krishna conscious stage when one is always fixed in Krishna. When one reaches this perfectional stage, he no longer has to accept these different types of diseases or bodies.
I had a thought when I was hearing this nice quote from Srila Prabhupada that is the real disease, and we've talked about this on many podcasts, but of course, I mean, there's a very important point. The real disease is actually the material body itself. I mean, you have all these little diseases, but if you look at it from a bigger picture, why do you have the diseases at all? It's because you have a material body which can, contract the disease. So I was thinking when I was hearing this that if only people try to understand and put as much effort as they do into stopping the coronavirus spread and researching the corona and being anxious about the corona, if they put that much effort and meditation and energy into solving the disease, the main disease, the root disease of the material body. And I was thinking, can you imagine if the government now said, if you don't wear a bee bag out in public, immediately there's a £6,000 fine. You must have your hand in your bee bag everywhere. Don't go. You can't associate Jana Sangha. No mundane association. Don't go to the materialists. Only associate with devotees. If this kind of mentality people had, put the same time that they're meditating on this kind of thing into spiritual life, they will be so much benefited eternally rather than solving this little tiny corona.
Those who are breaking the four regulative principles, there should be social distancing from them.
Yes.
You cannot, you infect the Maya disease,
Right.
Maya virus. Here's our friend Prabhu, Nace Prabhu. He's writing a very nice comment. He says, of course, this is on Facebook. We're streaming also on Facebook. So these are live comments from our friends and godbrothers. So Nace Prabhu from Slovenia, he says, of course, it is very well visible when you start looking. Occultistic symbolism is everywhere around us, and if you just look at the number of the children that go missing every year, it can become very much evident that there is a very organized effort behind it globally. Occultistic symbolism.
Occultistic symbolism is for example,
Starbucks, right?
No, exactly. More like the satanistic kind of pentagrams, goats. There's just an example. It's not like this is it's like a staple. It's kind of just like occultistic means pertaining to like cults, the bad idea of a cult, and what's this, Freemasons and control conspiracy theory, satanic, this kind of thing. I'm just thinking of buzzwords that I'm not so learned on this subject, but this is kind of my understanding.
Right. My question is that it also might be just your wishful thinking that you seeing everything. I remember when I was taking LSD, in my, previous life, I would also see all kinds of messages and connections and synchronicity. Synchronicity.
Synchronicity. I also
Synchronicity.
This little schizophrenia period I also had.
So it's difficult. Of course, there might be some connection. That might be true, but how do we know for sure that it is so? That it's the symbols. I saw these kind of theories before, and I always was wondering. I honestly say I was always wondering that. Well, how do you know for sure that this is so? It might be a speculation. But anyway, Nace continues. He says something very nice here. Sadly, not only children, all factors of human life, even nature. Oh, sorry, I skipped here.
I don't think so.
Okay. Sadly, not only children, all factors of human life, even nature. Too much for people to understand it all because it would make them freak out. And it's not even worth it to know all this stuff because it can divert you from Krishna since it puts you in fear. And if I'm afraid, then means I don't trust Krishna enough. So, yeah, that is very smart comment by Nace Prabhu. This is very much so. He really hit the nail on the head with the Krishna realization hammer. Okay, so anyway, we don't have so much time. I think we should start the topic of the. We should start the topic maybe after 45 minutes of talking. Now we should talk about the economic collapse. And I know that you, Prabhu, have done a little YouTube watching for the last few days, and you came with some new information I mean, even the internet, it's so difficult to find anything because everything is custom made, right?
Yeah.
You search, you find something. I search, I find something else. It's a different Google for you, different Google for me. So it's very difficult to find it because everything is tailored according to your taste. It's like you become more and more ignorant.
The cookies are there.
Yeah.
The cookies are tracking you. Well, yeah, I will say that, you know, any information that I broadcast it's not exactly Srila Prabhupada. It's the internet, from what I understand, from my experience on YouTube, especially YouTube, it's like a rabbit hole. You know, you click on one video, and then you've chosen that rabbit hole, and all the suggested videos and the following videos and everything on your feed following that is, you know, in that sphere, in that rabbit hole, and you know, you then you start getting on a train of thought that this is the Siddhanta, this is the conclusion. It must be because I'm seeing it everywhere and all these different. You see only from that
Then you see
perspective.
occultist symbolism.
Oh boy! So then, yeah, you start seeing like that. Anyway, I think I tried to see it from different angles of vision, and the information is also logical, as well as backed up as far as it goes
Tell us.
materially. So anyway, not to without much further ado, yeah, basically there are economists that are analyzing the situation, and I also mentioned it in the beginning of the podcast that um, specifically in London we can take a good model that everything is collapsing, and the small businesses, like I mentioned, are shutting down as a result of the social restrictions, because a lot of the businesses are social businesses, especially restaurants, for example. And that means that because they're the most the and also sorry, and this economist, he was also pointing out, one of them was pointing out that it's actually a misconception. People think that big companies, for example Starbucks, whatever, I don't have to name them, they employ the most people, but actually that is not the fact. It's actually the small businesses which employ the most people. So because these small businesses are shutting down, that means people are also out of work. When people are out of work, they start taking furlough. Furlough is when you get paid for being off work. You get paid for your work. It's not exactly the same. It's like a margin. You get paid for being for vacation, basically. And so everyone's on furlough now. So the economy is just being completely sunk. And it's practical, you know, this is actually what's happening right now is not theoretical. The economy is doing poorly. People are unemployed. And even though the government says that it's seeing a recovery, we can see on the streets, even here we have the experience, it's we don't see how it's recovering exactly. And another point, like I mentioned, also is the taxes. The small businesses, because they employ the most people, they're the biggest part of the economy. In that sense, they are the ones paying the taxes. These big companies, they don't pay taxes. They put their I don't exactly know how it works. Someone maybe can educate me, I'm sure. But they basically route their taxes through to islands like the Cayman Islands, which are tax-free islands, tax havens. That's what they call them. And I've seen also several documentaries where they go around and, you know, they document that these companies have offices in the Cayman Islands, and those offices are the ones that deal with the taxes. So they don't pay any taxes. So these big companies are the ones that will survive, but these big companies don't pay any taxes. That means the government also, not only are the people unemployed, but the government also has no money. They aren't getting taxes, and yeah, it just looks like a real ruination. So, and then another economist pointed out that exactly the same situation that's happening right now happened in Japan in 1989, in a situation called zombie companies, where the country creates or allows for the fruition of zombie companies, which are basically companies that continue doing business, but they are surviving entirely on debt. They owe the bank money, and the bank allows them to continue to try and pay off the debt or whatever, or to just keep the economy going. People putting money into the economy. So these are called zombie companies because they appear to be alive, but actually they're dead. So Japan in 1989, roughly 20% of the businesses was zombie businesses, zombie companies. And as a result of that, even though it appeared in the short term that the economy was recovering, um, actually, what we see now in Japan is an economic. The economy is stale. It doesn't grow. Actually, it's decreasing. The GDP is very, very low, and as a result, they're very much struggling financially. And the troubling thing is the exact same thing is happening globally. They're actually, even though companies are failing, they're in debt. They're allowing them to go on. The zombie company thing is going on, and I don't know, these statistics, as I mentioned before, exactly where they come from, or if they're entirely accurate. But it is to the knowledge of these economists that roughly we're approaching that same percentage of zombie companies that was there in Japan. So the model shows that, very shortly in the future, we will hit economic stagnation, and there will be eventually a collapse. And this is happening on a global scale. So this is really very disturbing. And yeah, and actually Srila Prabhupada, I think Prabhu is going to bring up a prayer now, but Prabhupada, he predicted this kind of situation, that the Western way of life would finish. So I don't know, maybe you want to read a quote now, Prabhu. Enough of my speculations.
Yeah, Prabhupada says about the economy, I mean, even without the virus, we mentioned this on the some of our podcasts before, and they're printing the false money.
Right.
The money just print the government artificial money. So this creates the problem. And this creates debts and so on and so on. So here's Prabhupada says, in Vedic society, this is about the Vedic society. Prabhupada says there was never paper money. That barter system, you got rice, I got something else, so I give you something, you give me something. Arisori, disciple says. But isn't inflation still possible even with coins? Even if you have gold coins, isn't inflation still possible? Prabhupada, no. Gold is acceptable by everyone. Disciple, the main point is the barter system. Another disciple, yes, well, its value is recognized by what it can, by its purchasing power. Prabhupada, yes. Disciple, so you can alter. Say you have one gold coin, you can alter what it is. Prabhupada, no, if you introduce real metal coin, then there will be no inflation. Disciple, there's only a certain amount of metal. Prabhupada, that's all right. The exchange, the more demand, more price. Suppose there is a spectacle. I am demanding 10 rupees. So both of you are customer and you are asking for the spectacle. Then I am increasing my price. So if you can pay me by printing paper, you will accept any price. That means artificially price is increased. Is it not? Disciple, yes. Another disciple. So the idea is that with coins, the man who has got the goods, he can't. Prabhupada, therefore, suppose he has got 10 coins, you have got 10 coins. I am wanting 15 coins. So there will be no competition. I have to accept either from you or you 10 coins. Disciple, right, because there's only that much money. Prabhupada, but if I increase price and if you have got power to print, alright, take 15 coins, 15 rupees. But you print and pay me, but if the coin is there, you cannot increase on that. Disciple, he can't increase the price of the product. And the man who got, because there's only a certain amount of money there, Prabhupada, but I can increase the price provided you pay me. But by printing, it is easier. But if you have to collect coins, that will be difficult. So there will be no artificial increase. Disciple, yes, coins is a check. Prabhupada, yes. Disciple, on charging too much. Prabhupada, that is wanted. And these rascals, they're artificially printing paper as money. And I am a rascal, I am demanding more because I have got a customer. And disciple, the difference between Vedic culture and the Krishna conscious culture and the modern culture is very, very dramatic, very big difference. And the transforming of society, Prabhupada. And besides that, if we concentrate in farm project, There'll be no need of exchange because I'll be satisfied with my products. That's all. There is no need of exchange. Whatever I need, I get in my farm. Disciple, weaving, cloth, Prabhupada, everything you get. So I haven't got to go outside for exchange. If you're satisfied in your farm, I am satisfied. And where's the question of exchange? There is no need of artificial. So this banking, fanking, everything will collapse automatically. There is no money. Who is going to keep money in the bank? Disciple, who needs it? Prabhupada laughs. So this artificial way of banking, that will be also collapsed. Disciple, this is revolutionary. Rameshwara, another disciple, it's very hard for the mind to, Prabhupada, no, simply do this. Disciple, such a dramatic transformation of society. Prabhupada, yes, whatever it may be. We should be satisfied locally by our food, by our cloth, by our milk. That's all. Let the whole world go to hell. We don't care. If you want to save yourself also, you do this. Here is an example. Just see, if you want artificial life, city life, and hellish life, you do. But we shall live like this. This is the ideal life. So anyway, you can read this article in its full, in its entirety on expanderbliss.com. It's called Plan for the Post-COVID World. Expanderbliss.com in the article section, Prabhupada speaks out section. You can read the whole thing. It's very interesting. So Prabhupada is exposing why the whole, now they want to have a cashless society. It's not going to help anyone. You must introduce gold standard. You must introduce coins. And as Prabhupada mentions that, because there's a limited amount of coins you can make, then there will automatically be a check for the inflation of the economy, and we wouldn't have this problem at all. See, it is very simple. You just exchange. Don't come up with these credit cards. Keep your stupid credit cards. We don't want your credit cards. We don't want your chips and cell phones and all this rubbish. We want gold. We want coins. We want something tangible as the money. That will solve all the problems. See, Prabhupada is giving the solution. The solution is there, but these rascals, they will not hear. They will go on with their speculations and collapsing the whole world.
Yeah, I think I just also had this realization that what the actual core issue is, because Prabhupada identified right there that you're artificially increasing the price. I have some product and you have some money, but I want more for the item. I want to increase the price, and because you can print, therefore I'm going to increase the price of the product because I know that you can print and give me more. So it's actually people's greedy desire simply to accumulate more material wealth just in numbers, and that desire just to have more and more and more sense gratification is the reason that now the society is in such an economic turmoil. So if people actually were concerned just with the basic necessities, what they need, like Prabhupada also mentioned, their cloth, milk, vegetables, whatever, grains, and so many other things that you can get from the land, from the animals, not from killing the animals, of course, no nonsense, but everything that's actually available already, you can get from farming, and even if you're just in a city, let's say, it's such a dramatic change, it's not possible to have farms. Like Prabhu said, you just trade with the gold standard, exactly what you have. You don't artificially inflate just to increase your bank balance, and just because you want more for a certain thing. It should just be based on, what someone needs, so you exchange for my need and your needs, not based on my desire.
Yes, very good. So, Prabhupada is urging devotees to have farms, and this is what we can tell people also, that they should somehow, if there is such a thing as economic collapse, it's already there. I have another website here, The World Bank is saying that this is the worst crisis since the Second World War. So I mean, that's a real wake up call. Like we should really start waking up to reality and prepare for very tough times. Lack of food and lack of services, and living very austerely. This is what's going to happen. This is what all of these people are saying. It's not a joke. These comforts that we have been taking for granted, they'll be gone for most of the people, especially in the Western countries. So I think we should preach this to people that when the government fails, because everyone is depending on the government and the economy and everything works. Money, we're all depending on money. When that fails, then we should somehow cooperate and create these farm communities where we can start a new world, the Krishna world order, where people can live independently by depending on Krishna. See, this is real independence. You depend on the gifts of nature that are supplied by Krishna. So that is my conclusion on this.
Yeah, I mean, we should also be kind of ending the podcast. It's getting a little late on the time, but I think if I could be so bold as to make the closing comments that, and the best part about this is that it is not democracy. It is not idealistic. It's not that we're utopian sentimental saying, oh, let's make a nice Krishna society. No, I mean, Prabhupada is giving everything. You do like this is how you make the economy nice. He's even giving the solution. Even if you can't make the farm system, you do the gold standard. And everything is there. The way of life, the goal of life, the way to set up everything materially, how people should work according to their propensity. We have everything, the full science. So this new world, this new face of society is very much possible, and I would go so far as to say that I think that we can look at a potential economic collapse in a positive light. That actually we've been living in such a decrepit society for so long, getting cheated, suffering tremendously because of this artificial way of living, and when people get this big wake-up call, like you said, then they have the opportunity to take up something much better. They'll be able to get a higher taste, Krishna consciousness, a Krishna conscious society. And otherwise, I don't know if people would ever take up to it, because people are so much ingrained in this particular way of living. So this will cut off people's blatant sense gratification, and I think people will be more open to our radical yet perfect ideas.
Read Srila Prabhupada's books, chant Hare Krishna, if possible, 16 rounds on your beats, and get ready. We have all the tools to survive this economic collapse by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. Just one last note, we would like to ask donations from those of you who would like to support our activities. Of course, we speak many theories, but practically speaking, we also need donations to keep going. So some of you, many of you, have already helped us so much. I may just mention Annapurna Mataji. We also received donation from Gokula Chandra and his wife from New Zealand. Nice devotees. They have a farm community devotees there. We also received donation from Lynn from Gibraltar, our friend we met on the street there.
Also your mum, and also your auntie, no? Thank you very much.
And Nicholas gave a donation, and of course
Harley David Heiser, Jai.
Jay. I think Harley he still didn't give donation. He gave before.
He gave
Yeah.
sometimes.
Even if he doesn't give, Ali is our stalwart supporter.
He donates by his love.
He donates his heart. And but he also promised to give us donation. So nice. And who else was there? Of course, Peter Krsna with his partner. They're also good supporters. And Makanji Prabhu, unfortunately, Makanji Prabhu left London, but he's trying to get a job in Switzerland. So please kindly pray that Makanchur will get a job. And we're seriously now considering buying a farm and trying to start a farm. So it's becoming very concrete now, this plan. So yeah, this is our last plan. After all this research, we would like to make a farm where people can come and stay and live, basically. live nicely without depending on. So this is our last plan.
Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai, thank you for listening.
Dun 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 dun.